Hey guys, Mika here. And if you guys are familiar with watching the sound samples here or familiar with watching me, it's no secret that when a custom Lymana instrument appears in my hands and before you folks on the other side of the camera, I always get super excited to be able to share my thoughts and just be able to play this wonderful instrument for you folks. Because I'm a huge fan of the Lymana custom instruments. They're just so rare, and it's one of the builds, or the instrument is not like ones that's being made more today. It's more kind of instruments from the past, like 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it's like a real treasure because this is a perfect example of what the custom instruments were like, with this Lymana and others, just a true representation like what these instruments or what the type of instruments were kind of being made here in Hawaii from like 20 years ago. And the Lymana's instruments, even though it's, minusing the factor that, hey, it's, 15, 20 years old. And, of course, it's opened up over the years and stuff. So it's a little, apple and oranges compared to new instruments. Just the craftsmanship, the quality, the sound, the playability. It's so crazy that I could get this kind of sound and playability of an instrument 20 years ago and just be like, oh my gosh, this sounds as good as any other instrument being kind of put out nowadays, from some of the best luthiers. So I really love Lymanas, and just again, you can listen to this, just sounds so good. But before I get into the sound, this is Western red cedar here on the top. It's been aged for quite some while. And then here on the sides and back is mahogany wood, and then it's binded with tortoise shell here on the bottom as well as the side, with more of this kind of white purfling that wraps around with the tortoise shell. And then you have this nice back end strip. When I saw this, I kind of immediately reminded me of like the old Martins from like the 1940s, 50s, 60s, the golden era of Martin, because back then they would use the tortoise shell just like this, and then they would have this kind of like stained darker mahogany kind of look to the instrument. So they kind of, not like an antique look, but it gives it kind of like an older kind of look. It reminds me again of the Martins made 67 years ago. So kind of nostalgic for me to kind of look at this and the wood combination. But this instrument is pretty straightforward again, with like more of the wood combinations, and then just having your ebony bridge, fretboard, faceplate, and then your mahogany neck with the gloss finish, and then the ebony headstock. And then this is an older Lymana because this is an older label that even I'm not familiar with, because I played quite a few Lymanas over the years and I've never seen a Lymana with this logo. And I was informed that this is his older logo before the current kind of just L that you see on the more previous or more newer instruments from him. So this is a more older version of the Lymana ukuleles, and it's absolutely fantastic. And then nice silver and black Grover gear tuners here in the back of the instrument. And then of course abalone shell, pau abalone here as your fret markers on the fretboard. But going into sound, the reason why I love Lymana's instrument so much, not only does it remind me of like that kind of old traditional, very warm, mid-rangey kind of sound, like when I play this G chord, the sound itself is like, it's just so perfectly, I mean that's a big word to use, but it's so perfectly balanced in terms of it has that oomph underneath it in the lower register, but then here like in the mid-range, like how the strings interact with each other, how all of the strings mesh with one another, so that when I play a chord, you don't hear four strings ringing, you don't hear four strings kind of just ringing on its own. You hear one sound. You don't hear 1 2 3 4. You just hear just four strings meshing and blending in together to create this nice tone that just rests so easy on my ears. It's so clean on the A string. You can even hear the overtone right there. It's activating pretty much the top three strings by itself, but it's just for, so this is all biased because this is how my ear likes to perceive and hear things, but it just has just enough articulation and crispiness so that I can really to where everything is super clean and crisp, and all the note articulation, it's super clean, doesn't get muddy. but it still has a somewhat rounded, again, mid-range kind of sound. So it has a very sweet sound. It's not too bright. It's not too crispy of a sound. It still has a nice rounded sound. But then coupled with the low G and the C string, it just has that perfect mid-rangey type of sound, but it has a little bit of the low end, and it has a little bit of that crispiness or that nice shimmer on the other side of the sound spectrum. It's just so sweet of a sound. From the setup being really low, from the neck being more of a traditional neck, meaning like this is kind of like the standard from all of the hundreds and hundreds of instruments that I played. It has more of like kind of like a D shape, but it's not sticking out a lot. This is more of like, it's kind of like right in the middle, if I have to describe it, where it's not too thin, but it's not too thick. It's not flat in the center of the back. It's nice and rounded. So when I'm holding, my thumb here on the side, it just, no matter what part of the neck I'm hitting, it's kind of on the rounded part of the surface of the neck. So altogether, just the playability is second to none. It's fantastic. It's exactly what I would look for in an instrument. Let's listen to that. It's just so clean. All the way up here on the 12 and 14. Beautiful. Look how clean that is. so sweet, that A string. So well balanced, so easy to play. It's an amazing instrument. I love it so much. So if you have an opportunity to grab it, you definitely want to add Lymana into either your collection, or just if you just want a great instrument. Yeah, Lymana is it's just the way to go. So here we go. as you can see, it's just a very fun instrument. You can kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just me, you get lost in your own little world. You just go on and on and on. And this instrument, you just don't want to stop playing it because it's just so, it's amazing. So whoever gets this, you're very lucky. So here's what this instrument would sound like with some strumming.